Yeah, you ready to sync? I'll start
Yeah.
on one. 1,
2,
3,
4,
5,
6,
7,
8,
9.
10.
I don't know. I thought for a second, like,
to 8.
I thought, no, I just kept going. I thought, like, what if I just threw a 9 in there? Well, how would he react? How would he respond?
Laughter. That's the answer.
You know what we brought up last time and didn't answer?
What kind of intro we're doing?
What kind of intro we do? We've created this show based off of evolution and changing and adding things and implementing them, and then we talk about adding them, and then they go away. What do we do?
What we do is what we said. We said we always say, welcome to episode 3 of Moronic Evolution.
Right. And what's your name?
My name remains John Kinte.
And mine, if my memory serves and my notes are correct, it is Holly Davenport.
That's what I have those notes too. It tallies.
Okay, good. It's on a sticky note on my laptop, just to always have, in case I forget. This is a weird bit. So we're here again, and we've have like a real audience, dude. Like, people listen to this.
Absolutely.
I was both embarrassed and pleasantly surprised when I had to delay episode 2. Because I was like, oh, we'll have to delay it another week. We're still trying to figure out whether it's going to be weekly or bi-weekly, which we're still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, oh, I was really looking forward to it. I'm sorry. And I was like, really? You were? And they're like, yeah, we're having a good time. So thank you. For
one or more people were like, where's episode 2? And I was like, that's more than I expected.
That's true.
Yeah,
well, that's very kind of you all.
And we were lucky enough to listen along live to the premiere last week. I can't say last week, can I? Because
it was episode 1.
Yes, because it's not.
It also wasn't last week.
It's not even last week when we're recording this, let alone when people hear this.
Correct.
So when the premiere of episode 1 came out, we were lucky enough to listen along with a hardcore group of friends and fans, supporters, and we got instant feedback and feature suggestions, which was great. We then went on to record episode 2 the same night,
right?
With those first suggestions. We've since got even more because I think the gap has allowed it to trail behind a bit and allowed people to gather their thoughts, get into the swing of it. So yeah, we've got a packed show this week. We
do. We have quite a bit of stuff to cover. Do you want to roll us off? What do you want to start with?
Well, we started episode 1 with a whole bunch of questions at each other, which was about maybe 3/4 of the podcast.
It did. It was a good icebreaker. I think it set both of us up well.
And the first suggestion that I got was that we should make up a set group of questions that we can either ask each other the first time, but then be able to ask guests of. Much like the completely stolen questions we had the first time, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit. What do you? Well, first off, should we cover the 2 questions that were suggested?
I was going to say, were you about to ask me a question, and was that question 1, or was that a
God,
logistical
no.
question?
No, that is a question that takes some thinking.
I thought you were about to just jump in both feet. Right, we need some questions. How many limes are you holding? Just jump straight in.
No,
and the answer's nearly always 0.
No, nearly always 0. The 2 questions that were suggested by the person who suggested the idea of creating a question list were. Should we say who it was?
Well, we actually have 2 separate aspects to it. Someone suggested the list, and someone else just submitted 2 questions without knowing the other person had.
That's fair.
I think we should credit people.
I agree.
I think it's sort of a fairly given that if you are posting on, the sort of comments of a podcast, that your question might get read out.
Yeah, that's fair. I think if people don't want to be credited, maybe they should specify.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me. So. Yeah, so whose idea was it to actually have the question list then?
So, so Tohawk suggested a couple of questions, but it was my friends Nat and Alfie said that they really enjoyed the Empire magazine questions,
Mhm.
and having guests on, and being able to then have our own set of designed to start stories and conversations questions.
Right.
But they didn't have any suggestions specifically, whereas Tohawk did. Tohawk heard us chattering away about whatever and decided he had some quite intense suggestions.
Shall we go through
Yeah.
them? The first one, which is a terrifying question for anybody,
Absolutely.
is what's the biggest mistake you've ever made, and would you do it again? That's the question.
I love these questions.
Here's my idea, right? I don't know if we should go with this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I think our first question should be something so unbelievably like hamburgers or cheeseburgers. And then the second question should be,
light.
what's your biggest mistake you've ever made? I like that idea a lot.
And why was it choosing hamburgers?
Well, okay. Wait, we can't do this. We can't. This will be the entire episode.
You know, I love these questions, and I do think keeping it light is probably better on the whole. But
Right.
I mean, there were some questions in the other set that were, you know, moderately personal in a way. You know, they weren't
Sure.
just fluff. So I think what's the biggest mistake I've ever made? I really can't even start to like conceptualize.
Neither can
On
I.
the
And
spot.
Nor do I want to dive down that hole of self-loathing.
Well-
I don't know if that's fun for a comedy podcast.
Well, let me tell you, I've made some mistakes, and they're not all terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I've just made bad choices. I remember distinctly when I was about 6 or 7 years old, walking up to the wrong woman wearing a long beige coat and tucking up, thinking it was my mother. Turned around, it wasn't.
It's the worst.
At that point in my life, that was probably the worst mistake I'd ever made, and I wouldn't do it
Petrifying.
again. But I don't think that's really what the spirit of the question's asking.
No, I don't think so either. I once just to answer the question in a silly way and not like a I ruined my life kind of situation. I should mention this. I as of today am no longer an employee of my job of 5 years.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Today was my last day at the grocery store I used to work at, which is rad. Super stoked about that. Moving on to better things. But while I was there, I feel more comfortable saying now that I'm no longer an employee, I did some shifts. I worked in every department. Like I did produce, I did grocery, I did meat, I did bulk foods, and bulk foods is the topic of discussion for this story. I put sugar in the flour bin.
Ooh,
Like a full 30-pound case of sugar in the flour
like
bin.
powdered sugar.
Yes, powdered sugar. And what they don't tell you at a grocery store is if you cross-contaminate 2 bulk foods items, you have to throw both of them away
Oh, jeez.
because you can't separate them.
No.
There's you're not going to hire somebody to separate grain from grain, so you toss it all. So I made them throw away
What you should do.
so much product.
What you should do is get a big spoon, mix it up, and sell it as sweet flour. Pre-sweetened flour. It's a whole new product. You don't throw it away. You double the price.
God,
Double down on it.
that's marketing. That's good.
Absolutely.
But that's like the biggest dumb oh, this guy's an idiot mistake I've ever made.
So what you're telling me is you did this on Monday and now you're unemployed.
No, that is not in relation to my now no longer working there.
What's the biggest mistake I've ever made being employed? I can't think of. I've certainly done stuff like you're trying to get the lid off something and it flies
Right.
off and something that's going to cause a stain goes everywhere. I've dropped water on computers and stuff. Stuff
Yeah.
that no one can really blame you for. It's just an accident, but
I crashed a forklift.
wow.
Yeah, that was fun.
Congratulations.
I ran it into a wall. It hit a wall because someone took the governor, the little thing that stops you from going 10 miles an hour on the damn thing.
Oh yeah.
Was not working and no one told me. So I flew into a wall, and then I was like, oh, it's fine. Wall's a little dented, but it's cool. Started to try and drive it again, away from the wall, and hydraulic fluid just started shooting from the damn thing. It was very good. Maybe that's okay. Hold on. Let's adapt this question and say, what's the biggest workplace mistake you've ever made?
I like that because whoever we have on as a guest in the future is going to have a different perspective to to talk about there.
Right, because everybody works in different places.
And everyone relates to that as well. Like,
sure.
It's like when you call your boss dad. It's never good.
I've never done that. That's awful.
I haven't either.
petrifying.
I was just imagining it. I've done it to teachers, though. Ugh.
I think I did. When I was like a little kid, I did that too.
Yeah.
And then the other one that
I was going to say, yeah, your forklift answer is quite a good segue into what is the most dangerous thing you have ever done.
Yeah, that's the other one.
I mean,
I like to keep my feet on the ground. I don't really do any dangerous, like, stupid stuff. I've done some, like, when I was a younger, lighter man, I did some, like, questionably fast longboarding down big dumb hills.
Yeah.
That was pretty, like, I'm going 45 miles an hour right now. Like, that's sketchy. But I don't know. That's not fun. I didn't, like, jump out of a plane.
I have a sort of inverse answer to that. I've done things which were genuinely dangerous, but only if you didn't know what you were doing. I grew up next to a very large river. I still live near it. And it is a tidal river, which is unusual. But in the southwest of England, the estuary is so wide that when the tide comes in, a tidal wave goes up the river for tens of miles.
Oh.
And as the river narrows, the tidal wave gets bigger.
Oh, God.
And so the momentum keeps going all the way up to the city that's at the head of the river, where the canals start, and it sort of dissipates just into a river, But where I am, about halfway along this river, it's probably a quarter of a mile across the river. It's a big river. And it's about 6 yards, 6 meters tidal range. So from low tide, it's like a channel in the middle with mud and rocks and sand around it, where you still would probably be up to your thighs, your waist, if you walked into the middle of the river, but it's quite swift flowing. And then it goes all the way up to being, like 5 meters above that, like full, bank to bank of moving water. So it's a bit different to a coastal tide, where a coastal tide comes in for 12 hours, goes out for 12 hours, basically. Or is it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it 6? I can't remember.
I forget what it is, but I know
it comes in. Yeah, that's right. It comes in twice a day, goes out twice a day in about equal measure. Whereas a tidal river comes in for an hour, like all the water rushing upstream the wrong way, and then as the tide slackens, the whole thing slackens, and then it has slack water for about an hour at the top, and then it all just gently runs out for the next 10. And then does it again. So for 10 hours of that section, it's just a river at some state of fullness. But for that 1 hour, it's a tidal wave rushing in. And I used to go down at low tide in the couple of hours before it was due to come in and pick up stuff, beachcombing. I'd pick up trinkets, I'd find golf balls, bits of ceramic or glass that had been worn, like you pick up on the beach. And I knew the tidal wave was coming in a little while, and usually I'd check the time that it was, because it changes a bit each day. But like I was, from age like 12 to 17, I'd do that sometimes twice a day, And I was, quote unquote, in danger, like the whole time. Like if I was in there when the tidal wave came along, like you are probably not getting out again. It comes in at the speed that's like, it's faster than you can walk, but you could probably outrun it. Like it's fast, but it's not like scary fast. And because I grew up next to it, I knew what the risks were. There was also, quicksand, soft mud, that kind of stuff. You did have to be careful. So from an outside perspective, that was like reckless parenting. Like, why is your child in a drought, in a what do you call it, a dry riverbed waiting for a tidal wave to wash them away? But it was great fun. It was a great childhood, picking up sticks and stabbing things and finding dead fish and going, ooh. And I remember a few close calls. There were times when you hear it coming before you see it. So when it's about half mile off, you hear this rushing and you're like, oh, I should get out. So you make your way to the nearest bank and you scramble up, and then, 2.5 minutes later, it's rushing past you. Everything is roiling white water and sticks and debris, and you think, oh, glad I'm not still in there.
And you're like, that would have been me 30 seconds ago.
And I was a young, fearless child. I never had any real doubt that I would get out.
Sure.
But certainly, like, a couple of minutes after the wave went past and my mother hadn't seen me return to the house, she'd look out the window thinking, was he in there or was he not? And I'd wander in with
I hope so.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd wander in with my bag of goodies, and they'd be like a wet sock and a half-eaten Harry Potter bobblehead and 12 golf balls. I'd say, "Look what I found," and she'd be like,
"Look at my haul."
Drown. Yeah.
Jesus.
So I don't know whether that's the most dangerous thing I've ever done, but it's certainly the most dramatic, like, casual thing I've done.
Like casual risk you take every day kind of thing?
Yeah, genuinely had risk.
That's fair. So I like that. I like, what's the biggest workplace mistake? What's the most dangerous thing you've ever done? And I like your answer too. I like it just being,
How about we ask, like, what's the most casual risk you take on a regular basis? Like, things that other people wouldn't do. Like, I go 90 miles an hour down the motorway every day, but lots of people do that. You're like, what's the thing that you know the risks, but you're confident enough? You say, yeah,
and you figure you'll be fine. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, workplace mistake and casual risk. Let's count those as two, and we'll come next episode with a couple more and maybe tack onto it.
Absolutely.
Until we get a guest and then bombard them with our dumb questions.
So do we want to go through any of our own thoughts? Do we have any at the top of our head right now?
Thoughts about what?
Like with those questions sort of in place, based on those suggestions, is there anything you would want to ask a guest that you think we could potentially spitball right now? Like their name, country of origin?
Well,
do they wear their socks matched or odd?
That's good. I like that. That's a good window into the soul.
Yeah, very important personality.
My favorite window into the soul question. It takes far too long, but my favorite window into the soul question that I would always ask people is: you can have a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, a snack, and a dessert.
Ooh.
And it's every, like, dietary issues notwithstanding, you can have it every day. Like, that's all you can eat for the rest of your life. Like, what would you pick for each 5 of those things? I like that a lot. I don't expect them to have an answer for each one immediately. Like, that would be a question that takes a lot of time, but we can keep that one on the back burner. Like, we have really immediately?
Yeah, I love food, and this is the sort of thing that, like, not to go too deep into it, I've never had any official diagnosis, but I super suspect that I have autistic and ADHD tendencies, where I like routine in a lot of things, and I hyper-focus on things sometimes. It doesn't really affect my life strongly enough to be like a label that I use, but when it comes to food, I have, like, textural sensitivities as well. So I've spent a lot of time finding foods I'm super comfortable with and have eaten over and over again. So up front, straight away, cooked breakfast, English breakfast is, like, I agree with Ron Swanson. Breakfast food is just categorically the best food. There's no doubt.
Absolutely.
For lunch, I'm going to say soup. I love, like, soup salad, cheese toasty. It's a great choice.
Interesting.
If I have to pick, I say tomato soup. It's simple. When you feel like it, it's just so satisfying. You dip that cheese toasty and the cheese is melty and it's just so good. It's so satisfying. It's homey.
God, that's such a good decision. Like, that's such a good choice. I never thought about that.
For dinner, I'm going to say traditional roast, like whether it's chicken or whatever, all the trimmings, like Christmas dinner. Like,
nice.
You get all the stuffings and sauces.
You're going very traditional so far.
Yeah.
Some soup, some a traditional English breakfast, a roast. Like, that's very, like, by the book. I appreciate that.
I think for me, it's nostalgia, comfort, and also variety. They have lots of different things on the same plate.
Right.
And they contrast each other as well. Like, soup's way different to a cooked breakfast,
Sure.
What were the other two categories? Dessert?
It was snack and dessert. Like, snack could be anywhere in between breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I think for dessert, I'd have to go creme brulee, just because I love it.
Oh, phenomenal choice.
As for snack, I could not leave crisps out of it. Just a big bag of, like, kettle chips or...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I would probably happily live on that for the rest of my life. There are things I'd miss, but, like... Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, really quickly. I will go through mine, because I've thought about this question quite a bit. Breakfast. This will be the 3rd episode in a row of our 3 episodes so far of me mentioning biscuits and gravy. It's one of my favorite foods of all time. I would eat it until the Lord himself told me to stop.
And you count that as a breakfast food?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's traditionally a breakfast food in America.
Oh,
it's like a breakfast diner sort of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, biscuits and gravy for breakfast. Lunch, I have like this ideal deli sandwich that's like absurd and very specific. I'd say croissant sandwich with salami and bacon and roast beef and sharp cheddar cheese.
That sounds so good.
Oil and vinegar, salt, pepper, like amazing. I've had it a couple times. Like it's like the best thing I've ever eaten. Snack, I would have to go mozzarella sticks. Like they're one of my favorite, like fried mozzarella sticks.
Yeah.
Again, if dietary issues were at play here, I would drop dead in like a week.
Now you mention it, I would miss fries. So I didn't include them anywhere. They are on some English breakfast, but that's not traditional.
Interesting. Okay, but I didn't know that.
Well, like if you go to like a tangent, but if you go to like a diner style greasy spoon, like we talked about before, they've always got chips on the menu, and they'll sub something in. You know, if you don't want the hash browns, you get the chips instead. Like, but it is a diversification of traditionally. If I said cooked English breakfast, you wouldn't come with chips.
I'm so mad at you. After the episode after we make the distinction of chips, fries, crisps, you use every word to describe everything.
No.
You went out of your way to say chips for both items, and you said crisps for chips, and you said fries for fries. So I don't know. I don't know which one's which.
I promise I categorically used British terms. I said crisps and said kettle chips because that's the brand name.
Oh,
but kettle chips are crisps. And then I said fries because I mean the thin, like McDonald's style light fries, not fish and chip shop chips. I know it's confusing, but I try my best.
Okay, where was I? I did breakfast, lunch, snack. Okay, dinner. My favorite food is sushi. I would have like a couple of specialty sushi rolls.
I've been looking over my roast chicken at you, so jealous.
Well, then rethink your answer. I always do, whenever I go to a sushi place, I always get 2 rolls. I get one spicy tuna roll with a bunch of other, whatever the hell they offer. And then the other one, I get whatever deep fried roll they offer, whether it's like a spider roll or just like a regular roll that's deep fried. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. So good. I love sushi. And then dessert. Dessert's the one that I always fluctuate on. My favorite dessert ever used to be churros. I love the cinnamon sugar flavor. Like the combination of those two flavors is really good. But it has since changed to probably tiramisu cake. I love tiramisu cake.
I'm not a huge fan of coffee, but like in general, creamy desserts like that.
I'm a coffee maniac. You could put coffee in any traditional food. What I'm sipping on right now is a coffee flavored whiskey.
Ah, nice.
That's what I'm drinking as we speak. So yeah, that's a fun one. So we'll do those 3, right?
I like that
for now, and I imagine it'll expand. The one of each meal a day question are most what is it? Dangerous regular activity is what we said.
Like everyday risk that you take.
Yes, everyday risk, and then the last one is going to be for now is going to be workplace mistake.
Yes,
and I like that quite a bit. That seems like a good beat to move on.
Absolutely.
Did you have anything, or what do you want to do next?
No, as you said, it's tough to come up with these questions off the top of your head, and I only have silly ones. I can come up with nonsense endlessly.
We could do that forever.
What's your favorite letter? How many carbs can you eat? You know, what? Please direct me to the nearest mosque. Like, they're all good questions, but not necessarily for this list.
I don't know if you would need... All right, yeah, that's fine.
Were you about to question my nonsense? It doesn't do you
for a
any
second,
good.
I was going to be like, why would you ask a person ostensibly in a different country than you to direct you to the nearest mosque? But it's fine. We'll cross that bridge.
It's a question to ask. But yes.
What do you want to move on to? What do you got next?
Cultural differences. This will be the 3rd installation of the award-winning argument discussion.
Okay.
War between the UK and the US, and
let me remind the audience that we are currently at a score of 2-1.
Yes,
2 in the UK, 1 for the United States.
In my favor. And we have had some suggestions here.
Oh, good. Great.
We had one suggestion, which was a very general one, saying they really enjoyed the segment, and that we should try and avoid cliches if we can, which we didn't do last week.
Well, I feel that we have such strong opinions on the cliches that we wanted to get them out of the way as quickly as possible.
Definitely. I think we would have been lynched for not mentioning them.
Correct.
So
the fries,
debated.
crisps, chips thing is very important.
Yeah.
And I'm content to put that one to bed for now until
Me
it comes
too.
up again, because I know it will. But I agree. The cliches should probably be avoided.
Yes. And the first suggestion was things that you find really normal that other people find crazy, which I think is a really good topic. I had an experience recently. I was in a voice chat with some friends who you all know, and I realized I was the only white person in the chat. Everybody else was some flavor of brown or Latino or whatever, like from all around the world. And the people who had South American heritage were talking about literally cutting up a lemon, taking a slice of it, sprinkling some salt on it, and just eating it like a snack.
Salt?
Salted lemon. And me and
salted lemon.
Yes. And me and the other British person in the chat were like, what are you saying? And they were like, yeah. Like, I used to just be like, Mum, I'm hungry. And they'd be like, have some lemon, slice, salt. There you go. And it's great. And it's salty and it's bitter. And I was like, that sounds like the worst thing in the world.
I mean, I have not tried it. I will say that I had a family member for a long time, and I used to do this too, that would eat lemons by themselves with sugar. Like
sure, I've done that.
They would get a plate of sugar and then like dip the lemon slice into it and then eat it that way.
I
Which
like
I think is
candied
delicious.
citrus. Yeah, I'm all good with candied citrus. My British compatriot in this voice chat was more on your side of things, saying, I haven't tried that. Maybe it's nice. I was firmly in the camp of like, that sounds horrendous. I'm never putting that in my mouth.
Well, the problem is a lemon by itself is very sour. It assaults
Yep.
you, right?
Yeah.
The sugar cuts it with sweet, so it's a little bit more of a pleasant experience. However, salt is a flavor amplifier. Like when you salt something, it just brings the flavor of that thing out, like salted caramel, salted chocolate, like, savory foods. So I feel like it would just make the lemon lemonier.
I think what it is if you're not sensitive to the bitterness, it makes it a more lemony lemon, and that can be a really nice flavor. But I am quite sensitive to the bitter, and I don't know whether this is like genetic or cultural or whatever, you just get used to it. But my friend went and got lemon. This was like 2 a.m. He went and got lemon and salt and tried it. And it was the most horrific experience of their life. And I was satisfied. Yeah, this is Fayus.
Oh, it's Fayus.
Yeah. And the others in question were Della, Anto, Mad Monk.
Okay.
And those 3 were all like, yeah, it's great. And me and Fayus were like, no. Fayus and I being British, it was just so alien to us. Like, such a different, like, that's not a thing.
You don't do bitter, do you?
I don't mind bitter. Well, like you say, I'm not a fan of coffee. Like, a lot of things that have a bitter aspects. I don't mind it in the right place, but general.
What about like a red wine?
Yeah, see, I don't drink alcohol either. Partially,
I forgot
alcohol tastes like ass.
Well, haven't tried the right stuff, my friend.
For someone who doesn't drink, I have tried quite a few. Like when I was, I've never been drunk, but I have sipped different alcoholic products at different times and gone, that also tastes bad. And it may be that like I was like, if I tried it now, I wouldn't mind, but it's now such a part of my life that I don't even think about it.
I mean, you're better off, like by a lot. So
well, people have told me this, and I've walked up to people at parties where I'm drinking like I don't know, like a glass of milk or something really obviously not alcoholic, and they're standing there with their like 12th beer, and they're like, I wish I could do that, and they take another drink, and I'm like,
That's literally what I did just now. I was like, oh, you're better off for it, and then I sip my whiskey again. So
I mean, as long as people are enjoying it, but that was one of the moments where culturally I was just like, that sounds fake. Like, people don't actually do that, right? But I'm assured they do.
All right. That's fascinating.
I have an American friend who grew up in Kansas, met a British gentleman online, Well, actually, they met me online, so they did meet a British gentleman online, and then introduced them to who is now their husband. So they went for the second British gentleman they met, not the first. And they then moved to the UK after a long-winded sort of, sorting all that legal stuff out, and are now living here with indefinite leave to remain. Have been for a number of years. Very happy.
Okay.
They moved here, and they were the mother figure to some young children, and had to learn how much a bag of pasta weighs in metric versus how much a bag of potatoes weighs, and would often buy one potato and a pillowcase full of pasta because the weights are off. Like, how do I know how big the weight is? Like,
yeah, sure.
And one of the things she was very confused by is we have what we call squash in the UK, which is a concentrated, usually fruit-flavored soft drink. It is a syrup, essentially.
What?
So you buy a bottle of the concentrated syrup, and that might be like a 2-liter bottle or something, like quite a big bottle, and you then pour a little bit into a glass and you fill it up from the tap or from the water dispenser or whatever. And
what are you talking about?
Right. So
is this real? I've never heard of this before.
Well, exactly, and this is such a common thing in the UK. Kids everywhere are like, "Mom, can I have some squash?" And
is it like a powder?
Squash. No. It's a syrup. It's like a thick liquid. It's not really syrupy. It's just liquid, and it's like,
oh God, okay.
But if you ever try to drink it straight, which my friend did,
no.
her new stepchild was like, "Can I get some squash?" She just filled that cup to the brim with this super concentrated syrup.
Oh, Jesus.
And I did the same thing myself when I went to France when I was in school, and I couldn't read what was on the bottles. I bought a drink of what I thought was a drink, and it was squash. So we call it squash. I think you might be more familiar with the term cordial.
No.
A cordial tends to be more botanical, and it goes in like alcoholic mixers, that sort of thing. So you might get like an elderflower cordial, whereas
okay. So,
or like a lime cordial.
We have things similar to that. We have bitters,
right? Yeah, similar kind of thing.
Which sound similar, and then like just like syrups, like flavored syrups, like
yeah.
Another thing that we will do with like in the same vein in terms of like mixed drinks is like they make a liqueur of every flavor. So like elderflower specifically, you mentioned like elderflower liqueur is huge to make like botanical floral drinks.
Absolutely, but if you walk into a supermarket in the UK, you go to the drinks aisle and you've got bottled water, Coke, Pepsi, Sprite, whatever, and then you've got squash and cordials, and there's just a whole array of different brands, different flavors. You can buy a bottle of concentrated syrup, and some of them are like really cheap, and they're like 4 times strength, and like you're just basically making sugar water into kids' drinks. Some of them are quite high end, and they're like a real like properly brewed flavor botanical kind of thing. But yeah, it's so ubiquitous. Squash is just like just every house has something, and they know if any kids come around, they're like, yes, quick. And the bottle lasts ages because it's concentrate.
Do you have here's a question, do you have Mio? It's a company brand?
Yeah, so that's a little squirty like, and it like makes a full drink, right?
Yeah, that's not well, you put it in water and it like flavors the water.
That's what I mean. That's essentially what squash is, but Mio is even more concentrate. Like you just do the squirt, whereas squash tends to be maybe like a finger of syrup to like a full like glass of I was gonna say for a pint. It's like a finger for a pint,
fine.
but like
I know what a pint is.
Yeah, so it's more than the Mio is. The Mio's super concentrated. But yeah, and you did mention powder, like Kool-Aid, classically. That's not a thing here.
Okay.
Everything's squash instead, basically.
Yeah, there's Kool-Aid, which is a big one. Mm-hmm. And then there's one, I don't know if it's just a local thing. I don't know if it's like a nationwide thing. I know it because I grew up with it, but there's one that is delightfully disgusting called Tang.
Oh.
Tang, Tang, on the side of the thing, and it's a big orange like tub of powder, and it's like this like citrusy, like it essentially turns water into Sunny D.
Yeah.
Like which is not an awesome experience if you're over the age of 10, but if you're a kid it's like, oh great, yeah, this tastes awesome. Like Tang is always next to the country style lemonade, like real sweet stuff.
Gotcha. Oh, that's the other thing we should mention is that lemonade is different.
What?
So you know that like classic like kids making lemonade stand, $1 a cup, whatever.
Yeah, staple of American summers.
Oh, absolutely, but it's such a weird thing to British people because we're like, how is the kid making Sprite? Like, where's the carbonation coming from?
You're kidding.
Because we don't do traditional flat lemonade, like make a pitcher of lemonade and water and ice, whatever. Like, everything here is soda.
So the word lemonade means like a lemon soda?
Yeah. So when you've got a lemonade stand, I'm like, wow, how enterprising are these kids? Like, what do they do? What have they got, like a still around the back? They're like fucking... So
no, a lemonade stand is literally just a kid who squeezed some lemons, put some lemon juice in some water, and then added some sugar, and that's it.
Yeah, and you can totally see how that would be cute and
ice cold, easy to make. You give them like $1, it's delicious.
And it's such a cultural touchstone for so much American media that you can see why British people are like, what? Excuse me.
That's so funny. I've never heard the difference in terminology there.
Yeah, it's really interesting because if you buy you can get lemonade, you can get cloudy lemonade, which is a more traditional country style, but it's still carbonated. Mm. And then you get like Sicilian lemonade, where it is like sour as it comes.
Okay.
And it's often not carbonated, and that's like a niche artisan thing that you have to like buy in a pizza restaurant. Like, you can't go to a supermarket and just buy flat lemonade off the shelf. Which I find fascinating.
There used to be, very close to where I live, there used to be a farmer's market where you'd give them $2, which is absurdly cheap. You give them $2, and they'd give you like a half-gallon mason jar. Keep the jar, do whatever you want, bring the jar back, and it's $1.50. Like, it's like insanely cheap lemonade that was like, they had different kinds. They had like a strawberry puree lemonade. They had a pineapple mint lemonade that I would down by the gallon. It was so good. But yeah, like a non-carbonated, like just ice cold lemonade. That's a super I guess American.
Yeah,
like summer thing. That's so funny. I never knew that.
Yeah, and I think that's what I really like about this segment is that you get into the things that seem so normal to you that you don't realize other people are going, what?
Yeah.
And as you say, like a traditional summertime thing. In the UK, to a lot of people, summertime is like ice cold cider, slice of lemon, or slice of apple in it. Like
that does sound lovely.
That's like a pub garden kind of thing. Like, everyone's like, oh, sun's out, sunglasses on, time to get And I mean, cider in all forms is very traditional around here. You get proper scrumpy cider, which is like, it's, as you say, it's some bloke down the road selling it for £2 a gallon.
Hold the phone.
Scrumpy.
What the fuck is scrumpy?
Scrumping is traditionally the word for climbing into your neighbor's field and stealing their apples. It's when you don't own the orchard and you want to make some, like moonshine essentially. You want to make some cider, and you say, "I'm gonna pop next door, have a bit of scrumping, and then I'll make a proper lot up for us later."
Why did you go like?
I went proper West Country because that's where scrumping's traditional. That's where I live.
Samwise Gamgee.
Yeah. West Country is the accent for where I live, and it is very traditional farmer. Like, I mean, if everyone's ever seen Hot Fuzz, that's what it is. It's everyone and their mums is packing around here.
I see. I feel like this segment, cultural differences is going to be one of two things. It's going to be me going, oh, I didn't know that. That's so interesting, like the lemonade thing. Or it's going to be like, what are you talking? Like, it's going to enrage me. Like, Hank Marvin, what are you talking about? Why is that a thing? That's a person's name. Why is it slang for hungry?
Oh, that's Cockney rhyming slang. That is, mate. You can't fault that.
Slang. We need to dedicate an entire episode to Cockney rhyming slang. Because it makes me see red with rage. It makes no sense.
You just got to use your loaf, mate.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. Well, can we use our loaf in the next bit, please? We've been talking about this for 25 minutes.
So the next suggestion that I got was touching on your ability to create beautiful music with your fingertips. Something which I do not have the ability to do. And this is a very nebulous suggestion, just that it might be fun to do some musical-based bits.
Yeah, sure.
And I love that idea because I love music, but I don't have the ability to help you with this. I can mess around with words. I'm just curious what you think. Like, do you think we could craft something for a future episode?
You mean like make a song?
Or like a guessing game, or just something that involves music.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely room for it. My fear is that I don't know if I'm a good enough musician to just start playing stuff. I don't sing, which is a big thing. And also the instruments that I'm really, really good at work very well along with other instruments like drums and bass.
Right.
But I'm not like a great guitarist. I'm not like a great, like, you know, I don't write my own stuff, so that'd be tough. I do like the idea of, there have been people in the past that'll have, one person will prepare a series of clips, right? Like 1 to 2 second clips, and it's the very beginning of a song, and that's all they get, and they have to guess it.
I have heard a story about that.
That would be, oh god, that would be a very fun segment to do.
I agree.
It would take a good bit of chopping and screwing in terms of like editing on my end, but I could make that work.
Fun. I think we could pretty much answer the suggestion by saying yes with a question mark.
Yes, most certainly. Yes.
And then saying we are open to suggestions.
Oh, who suggested this, by the way? We should
most of these have been from Nat and Alfie, good friends of mine,
phenomenal,
who are
Thank you for
musical themselves, and British as well. So, but should I tell my one note story?
Yeah, go for it.
So I went. We mentioned previously on the podcast that I went to see Foo Fighters live, and they came on stage with members of Led Zeppelin performed.
Yes.
Which is one of the best musical experiences of my life. Same gig. They had a DJ. Before any of the support bands come on, they had a DJ playing songs to the crowd. It was a big crowd. There were people there for hours beforehand. And he would properly mix them. He wasn't just... It was kind of like a radio DJ in that he was playing full songs, but he would like do intros for each one. And he had No One Knows by Queens of the Stone Age. And I can't remember the name of the song, but it's by Biffy Clyro. And
okay.
It starts with a repeating note, which to my ears is like, I don't know how you want to describe it. It's the worst song in the world. It's like, I just can't get behind it. That, compared with No One Knows, which is one of my favourite songs that I can always get behind. And he would play one note of, like the first note of No One Knows, junk, and then he'd play the first note, the other one, bow, and then he would like chop and change, and he was like, ooh, which one am I going to play? Which one am I going to play? And I recognized that. I was like, oh, it's No One Knows. I hope he plays that. And all my other friends were like, oh, it's the other song that I love by Biffy Clyro. And I was like, I hope he didn't play that. And he's just like teasing. He's like playing one note here and then a couple of notes there. So the point that the whole crowd now has recognized the two songs. And then he starts playing maybe 5 or 6 notes of No One Knows. And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, he's picked that. And then he switched back and played the whole of the other song. And I was like,
no.
It was awful.
That's terrible.
And up to that point, my friends had teased me about how much I hated that song because they liked it, and whenever it came on, I just had to endure it. And this was like the icing on the cake for that, where they were like, "Hey, public humiliation."
Did he eventually play the other song?
No.
No?
He moved on, did something else after that. Like, it was just a little tease, and I was like,
"That's
God,
horrible."
But the gig turned out fine in the end anyway. So,
I mean, yeah, no, of course, but still, that's so terrible.
But yeah, some kind of intros. You know, maybe like similar intros.
I would be very happy to, because you, I'm sure, have a much stronger knowledge of like world music than I do. I would be happy to prepare for the upcoming next couple episodes. I'm not going to commit to the immediate next one because I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know if I'll have time to prepare it, but I will.
Absolutely.
I'll throw together like 8 to 10 2-second clips of songs and see how many you get.
Sounds
and,
beautiful.
You do the same for me the next time around.
And maybe I'll get none right and we scrap the whole thing. Yeah,
sure. Yeah, but that's fine. That's it. We're evolving. That's how it goes.
Absolutely. We've got to test it out.
Okay, I love it. Do we want to do our movie thing? Do we want to address the movie thing?
We need to address the elephant in the movie in the room.
The elephant in the movie?
Yeah, the elephant man in the room.
So we got some feedback. Here's the problem, guys. I'm sorry. We like movies, okay? That's the issue.
And I got a lot of positive feedback as well.
We should have just started a movie podcast, and we should have just talked about movies, and that should have been it for the whole thing. but we didn't. We're doing this, which is fine. We're going to create. Here's what we're doing. We're going to create a segment, right? We're going to call it Cinematic Evolution, and it's going to be our movie segment because we both like movies too much to not talk about them in this dumb, stupid, dumb podcast.
We get withdrawals if we go longer than 20
We
minutes.
get withdrawals. However, we get one film each. That's it. For
a little expose or story
one
or something
film
about it.
It could be a film that you rewatched recently and really love. It could be a film that you hate. It could be a film that you just saw in the theaters and want to talk about. It could be whatever. But that's it. That is it. And we promise we won't talk about movies for 30 minutes of a 50-minute episode. It won't happen again.
This reminds me of, I don't know if you ever listened to the Max Temkin, Pat Rothfuss podcast they did.
No.
It was called Unattended Consequences. So just two guys who are, moderately famous for making something, a game and a Cards Against Humanity and Name of the Wind and such. And they were just talking about their lives and whatever. And Max Temkin compulsively had to talk about Donald Trump because it was in the run-up to that election, and he was pro-Hillary. And that was when they were coming out with their Cards Against Humanity packs for pro-Trump, pro-Hillary, post-election.
Yes.
They did the whole pack. And at some point, Pat and him were like, we can't do this. Every episode is just politics. And that's not what people are here for. So they said we get 3 mentions per podcast.
Oh, God. Okay. So that's kind of what we're doing to ourselves. We're self-restricting.
We can tangent into it, but we got to keep it short, and that's a strike. And once you do it 3 times, there's no more on the podcast. And it worked really well for them. So I feel like we do a segment, and maybe we get like 2 other mentions of films. But if we find ourselves going towards that, just mentally be like, back from the brink.
And then we shut up.
Right.
I should mention that if it is appropriate within the conversation we're having,
of course,
we can mention a film.
Oh, that's what I mean.
That's going to be our excuse to talk about whatever movie for 45 minutes. But
that's what I mean. We can mention it, but you got to pull yourself back and be like, this is not the movie segment.
I agree. So Cinematic Evolution. Here we are. We're in it. We're here. Great. Let's live. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'm happy for you to go first.
Okay. You are my primary movie friend, right?
Right.
Whenever I watch a new film or I experience a film that's much older that I haven't seen before, I go straight to you. I have another movie friend that is a carryover from high school named Jason, sweetest guy in the world. Love him to death. While I was on my trip to Ireland and France a few weeks ago, actually, it's funny to mention that I was in a layover in Chicago, returning, I think, from that trip. And he goes, "Hey, what are you doing right now?" And I said, "I'm in Chicago, Illinois, like a million miles away from home. What do you need?" And he goes, "You need to go see Everything Everywhere All at Once," which is a film that's currently in theaters. And I go, "I'm in an airport." And he goes, "Does the airport have a theater?" And I go, "No." And he goes, "How long is your layover?" Like, he's serious. He's genuinely serious. Like, you need to watch this movie immediately. Because he knows my taste in movies. He knows that I love kind of confusing, crazy, trippy experiences that mess with existentialism and abstract ideas and thinking beyond, like, the general confines of media. I love that stuff. And he knows how much I love that stuff. And he goes, "You need to see that film as soon as possible." And I go, "Okay, all right, sounds good." And I usually take him at face value because he knows what I like. He knows he has a very good sense of movies. And for some reason, I guess I was just busy or whatever. It took me until my girlfriend was in town. She was in town this last week, or for like 5 or 6 days, across the weekend. And right after she got off the plane, we had some time to kill before our Airbnb was ready for us to check in. So we went to go see this film. It changed me, Kente, in a way that pieces of media have rarely changed me.
Wow.
It was an immediate favorite.
I have heard it reviewed well, but I haven't heard anything about it.
It is difficult to describe with words. It's one of those movies, right? It's one of those things where it's like, oh, this you got to see this film. It's unbelievable. What's it about? I don't know.
Everything.
Just go see it. Everything, everywhere, all at once is what it's about. It plays with your life, and it plays with family dynamics, and it plays with your acceptance of the world, and it plays with your denial of reality. And it takes all these things and it wraps it up into a big ball, and also turns it into an awesome action movie, a great sci-fi film. I will never stop saying good things about this movie. It became, I said a couple episodes ago that Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is my favorite movie of all time.
You did.
Because of the things that I've described in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I believe that with one single viewing of Everything Everywhere All at Once, it has surpassed that film as my favorite movie of all time.
And that's not a common thing. I mean, like,
no, it's not. To see a movie once and go, that's my favorite movie. That's my favorite movie ever made. It's tough. One. But I at least at this moment, I am a horrible victim of recency bias. Like, I will go like, that's the best movie ever made, and then I'll think about it for a week and go, no, it isn't. But I am confident right now, at least, excuse me, that is my favorite film made by human beings, and I would recommend everybody go and see it.
I am even more enthusiastic about seeing it now than I have been before. Like I said, I heard positive reviews, but nothing else, and I want to see it now. I mean,
yeah, it's good. My friend Jason was right. I wish I had gone to see it in that stupid airport or wherever I was.
Yeah. Wow.
It's that's good.
That's a glowing review.
It's good. It's really, really good, Kenta.
Awesome. I'm so glad that, like, in among whatever you think about blockbusters and indie films and all these things, and I'm so glad there's still such diverse cinema being made, and a movie like this can come out and just affect people like that and go, boom, quality drama, in your face.
Well, it's tough, right? The joke is that Hollywood is out of ideas, right? They keep rebooting things and redoing
That's
things.
That's the tagline that people keep forcing,
and making things that have already been made, or making things that are cookie cutter things of other movies or TV or whatever. And to have a film like this come out and just blow everything out of the water, very close to another multiverse film, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which we'll talk about another time because I'm only consigned to one movie. I'm sorry, I'm doing that already. I did not enjoy, and I am a strong enjoyer of the MCU movies. I did not like Doctor Strange 2. We'll talk about that another time.
I also haven't seen that, and I have heard mixed things. So
I'm not a fan, but
I'll definitely be prioritizing the former movie than Doctor Strange.
To so elegantly do that after a preview, when the previews were airing for Everything Everywhere All at Once, it played kind of like a comedy movie.
Yeah.
Kind of like it was going to be this fun, whimsical journey of, like, this woman who can travel through different universes and stuff, which if it was just that film, I would have gone, oh, great. That was a great time. But it was that on top of this masterpiece in human analyzation, and it just blew me the hell away. And I'll stop talking about it, because if I don't, I will talk about it forever. Please continue with your film.
Well, I was going to say, by contrast, I have, to bring us back down to earth, we mentioned in one of our previous episodes that I felt that Fight Club had probably aged since it came out. And coincidentally, in the last week, someone approached me and said, I haven't seen Fight Club. I read a synopsis. I saw the poster. It looks like a stupid buddy comedy. Let's watch it. And I was like, do you know anything about it? And they were like, no, it looks like bad Photoshop. And I was like, all right. So me and a group of people got together and we started watching it. And they quite quickly were just like, what is this? This is weird.
I was so sad because I still haven't seen the movie. I was so sad when I was away. Well, my girlfriend was in town. And I saw the notification that you guys were going to watch that. I was like, no, that's the perfect opportunity to watch it. Also, why do we stop? Why have we, for the second time, decided not to say Faye's name?
I
It's Feus. It's
a bit of an
it's
aside.
the ghost of moronic evolution that we keep not referencing. It's Feus.
I keep not referencing people because I feel like the wider our audience gets, the more they're going to be like, who?
Fair. That's true.
And in this case, it doesn't matter who it is.
That's true. You're right.
But it is Feus, and Feus is a delightfully innocent person, so it made it even better.
One of my favorite human beings on the planet.
So it made it even better. They didn't know that they were watching this intense movie with ultra-violence and psychological whatever and trauma and one of the biggest twists in cinematic history, which I won't spoil.
Sure, yeah.
But when the twist came, he was already disillusioned enough with the movie that he was like, there's something weird happening, but it still hit him like a freight train. It was like
really okay.
Witnessing that reaction was so good because he was like, "This isn't as silly funny as I thought it was going to be, but it's still a weird movie with these guys hanging out doing stupid stuff, punching each other." Yeah, when the twist hit, he was just like, "What the actual fuck is going on?" And it was so good because going into a movie not even knowing there is a twist, going into that movie,
amazing.
I know exactly, and I said I believe it was episode 2 we were talking, and I said that I felt like the philosophy of it had aged. It was really interesting. Now having watched it, I thought it was much more of a macho, like men being men kind of thing. Actually, it's a real like Gen X nihilism of like. I don't want to be too harsh on it because I have some great Gen X friends, but who are like, you know, boo-hoo, we have no great direction in our lives because we haven't had a war or a depression, like we are the middle children of history, is one of the lines. And it just, we've been through so much since with the pandemic, and you're just like, come on. It's not that big of a problem. Yeah, work sucks and consumerism's bullshit.
Sure, that makes sense.
So the edge has come off it a bit, but it's still a great movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it from a different perspective watching it. That was another one when I first heard about it. I was like, oh, I've got to watch this, and then I did, and I studied it at college and you know, for media studies, and I'm done with it now. I'm all right. I'm happy to have watched it. I'm like, I've done my full journey on it. It feels, which is
that's fair.
Interesting, satisfying thing to realize. But and I don't think I would have rewatched it anytime soon had Fairs not recommended it. He just popped up out of the blue and went, I want to watch this. And
I find that that's when I have the biggest shift in opinion for movies.
Yeah.
Is when I go, or is when somebody else comes to me and goes, I'd like to watch this movie. And I go, oh, I've seen it, didn't really love it. And they're like, well, I'd still like to watch it. So we watch it. That's when I have like the change of heart, you know? Mm-hmm. Like Pulp Fiction with you recently. Had very negative opinions of that film until we rewatched it with Feus. Feel much better about the movie. Still have my gripes, but feel much better. The Star Wars prequels, namely Episode 3. I was like, I haven't seen those since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, let's watch it again. I watched it with some friends from high school, and found out that, you know, Episode 1 is still boring. Episode 2 is batshit crazy with like what decisions they decided to go through, and Episode 3 is like genuinely one of the better Star Wars films ever made. So it's like, I don't know what happened.
I don't think we should ever do a Star Wars episode podcast because I disagree with everything you just said.
Okay, Jesus. All right. Well, that's something for the future. But we
it's
need
not.
to only talk about one movie.
We need to bury that right now.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
That is a bonus episode that only the bravest will come along and listen to. Now, I think some people would enjoy it. I think others would hate it. So we'll have to.
We also can't talk about the sequel trilogy either because I will I'll have an aneurysm live on air.
Can we do a prequel podcast where we talk about the Star Wars prequels?
Yes.
You know, like, and then we'll release it on the same, you know, RSS, but just as it's non-canonical. It's not in the number order.
It'll be a bonus episode.
It's Moronic Evolution and New Hope. You know.
Oh my god! Okay, that's great. I love it.
My friend Anna is a big. I say fan, is a big Star Wars fan, but had their problems with the sequels.
Do you think we can convince Anna
100%
to come onto the show? Perfect.
It will make us all infuriated, passionate, and it'll be a romp through our differing opinions, shouting at each other and telling
seriously,
each other we don't
let's
understand.
plan on doing that. Let's
absolutely.
do a Star Wars episode with Anna, and we'll talk. We'll do the first third. We'll be talking about the original trilogy. The second third, we'll be talking about the prequel trilogy, and the final third, which I'm sure will be a bloodbath, we'll talk about the sequel trilogy.
We have to call
that sounds like so much fun.
We have to call it Now That's Podcasting.
No, we can't call it that.
Can we call it the Boon to Eve Classic?
Yes, that's perfect. We'll workshop titles.
Sebulba's nuts. There's so many options.
Okay.
Antapudu.
Are you good wrapping up Cinematic Evolution at this point?
Yes.
What do we have left? We're burning through it. What do we have?
We are. But there was a suggestion once again from Nat and Alfie, very kind contributors this week.
Thank you, by the way. You have fueled episode 3.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it.
We have 2 word games here, which I want to mention. One,
ooh, fun.
I know is a no-brainer, so I'll do that one second. The first one is the idea that one or either of us or both have to try and slip a mystery word into a podcast without the other one noticing.
Oh, that's right. Have you done that?
I haven't. I didn't pick one this time. We did briefly discuss before recording whether I would try and do it already. I
have 2 that I prepared before the episode and I love, but I have not found a place to put it.
Yeah, so
we'll find a time.
So conceptually, in my mind, this is exactly my kind of game. I love this kind of silliness. I don't know how hard to make the word. If I pick like anti-disestablishmentarianism or supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. But if I pick avocado, it's in there. I think I said it earlier, or kumquat or whatever. But it's too easy. So we got to
it's got to be something out there, right? It's got to be something where the other person can easily identify it as the word.
Absolutely. It's going to be a delicate, like I'm talking about Star Wars and I'll suddenly say, you know, James T. Riker or whatever, you know. Well, whatever the
it
random
can't be
phrase.
Proper nouns.
No, it can't. Yeah, and I think that's a good idea for the future. I think we should spitball that and see if we can set it up better.
I love it. It'll be a little scavenger hunt for both of us, like a continuous scavenger hunt.
I don't know if this is the name of it, but the second idea is called, at the moment, If You're Holly and You Know It, Clap Your Hands. And this is a game where, luckily, you and I both have 2 syllables in our names. So if you're Kinta and you know it, if you're Holly and you know it.
Right.
The clap your hands part is changeable. As long as it's 3 syllables. This was pitched to me as a game you play. You walk up to someone without them knowing, and I say, if you're Holly and you know it, name 5 cats. And you just have to, quick as you can, reel off 5 cats that you know the name of. And it incites a weird, spontaneous panic in people where they're like, what are the cats? And because our names fit, we could just do it to each other randomly.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's so good. I can name 5 cats right now because there's 6 of them in my house.
Well, there you go. What are 5 of your cats' names? Actually, tell me all of them.
Okay. I'll go in order. I won't interrupt the bit. It is the oldest is Toby. And then we got 2 cats that were raised together that we named Koro and Tiki, both inspired by the Tiki Room in Disneyland. And then after that, we got, I believe it was Hina, also inspired from the Tiki Room in Disneyland. And then we got Louie. And then the oldest, the most recent one we got is Opie. O-P-I-E. That's the only one that we didn't name.
Is that named after the artist Robert Opie?
I don't think, maybe actually, I don't know. We didn't like I said, we didn't name him. We adopted him pre-named. So, but all the other ones we named. We had a cat that we adored, to like sunshine of our lives, named Silas, which which my mother named after the book, The Graveyard Book, which is one of our favorite family books. I believe it's her favorite book by Neil Gaiman. Amazing book geared for a younger audience. And that cat unfortunately passed away very early because of a heart condition at 3 years old, I think. So in order to she said, either I get more cats or I get a tattoo.
Wow.
And she decided on more cats, and she just didn't stop going. So we are currently in a house of 6 cats. There are so many that there are rival gangs of cat. There are downstairs cat and upstairs cat, and every once in a while they will have turf arguments.
That's the most polite way I've ever heard that put. Turf arguments.
That's turf disputes.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, sorry, that was a massive tangent.
No, that's fine. But yeah, I think the example I came up with for this game when I was discussing it with Alfie was, if you're Alfie and you know it, name 5 beans. And he did. But one of them was baked, and I questioned it.
Baked? No,
Yeah.
That's not a type of bean. That's like saying refried. Like, that's just a preparation of bean.
Exactly. But you know us Brits, baked beans are so ubiquitous. It is a type of bean at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's a follow-up question. When I say at some point in the show, if you're Kinte and you know it, suck a dick, what are you gonna like? How do you oblige?
I respectfully respond, that's not a question.
That's fair, I guess. But no, I love it. That's great.
Yeah, it's fun. I like the idea that I've got that power, that I can just say, if you're Holly and you know it, discuss some films, and you'll have to be like, I can't.
And I have to do it. Yeah, it's like I've bound myself contractually to only talk about one movie.
No, yeah, but yeah, usually it's a short and snappy sort of like not quite a quiz question, but like clap your hands, like it's something you can do straight away.
Sure, I like it. It's good. It keeps us on our toes. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Let's really quickly just go through a couple of things before we close out. You have apologies and fact check written down, which is what we did last episode. We don't have any from last episode. However, I have thought of one from episode 1 that I don't think we addressed.
And I've noticed 2 from this episode that I made already.
Okay, we have to save that till next episode. We can't air out the laundry of this episode until next.
Fair enough.
I think, if memory serves, and if I'm wrong, and I apologize, but I think when you were describing one of the 2 Reservoir Dogs posters that you had in your room, I believe instead of saying Mr. Pink and Mr. White, I believe you said Mr. Pink and Mr. Blonde in that classic pose of one laying down and one standing up with the guns.
Yes, I did, yeah.
I think that is a correction that needs to be made, because it's been a week, couple weeks or so since I saw the movie, but I believe that scene is Mr. Pink standing up and Mr. White laying down. Is that correct?
No, it's Mr. Pink laying down, Mr. White.
Okay. Either way, I believe
something.
you said Mr. Blonde, which you love the quote from Mr. Blonde, and you have a poster of Mr. Blonde, but that's not the poster that we were referencing.
Yeah, I had two posters, and one was Mr. Blonde standing there drinking his milkshake and saying that famous quote, and the other one was a whole bunch of different shots, but the biggest one in the middle was that.
Right.
Not the Mexican standoff shot, but like those 2, one lying down, one standing up.
Right. And that's it. That's all I have for
iconic shots.
That's all I have for apologies and fact checks.
Yeah, we did much better this time.
Do we have anything else?
I want to thank Feus for the intro music, which we are working on. But this
incredible.
This
we've been bouncing around on what we want to do permanently, or at least semi-permanently for an intro and outro music.
Yeah.
But tentatively, what Feus has recorded for us is lovely and great, and it plays through my head all day because I love it. I love the tune so much, and it's phenomenal.
I'm hoping to have that as a springboard into something maybe more complex or more idiosyncratic to us, but we'll see.
Yes, absolutely. We will figure that out in the future, but until then, Feus, thank you so very much for lending your talents for us.
Absolutely.
For that music.
And I have one further mention I want to make.
Okay.
Special mention in defense of Waffle House.
For Christ's sake.
The aforementioned friend who I had spoken to and I told a story about came forward and said, I feel like I should be offended and I need to defend Waffle House. So maybe we should do that as a future feature. We should get them on as a guest and ask them to tell us what's so great about it. I'm pretty much outside this. I'm a British person who's never been to a Waffle House, but you seem to have strong opinions, so...
I will go on the record on this episode 3 of Moronic Evolution, and I will invite our mutual friend, his name is Renchi,
Renchi,
or his,
yeah.
his online name is Renchi, to come onto this show and tell me why I should pick eating at a Waffle House over eating a chunk of drywall, which I would much rather eat at this current state than any food from a Waffle House. I respect myself very little, but just enough to not put Waffle House in my body. How dare he? This will go down as the biggest blight on moronic evolution, that we have a mutual friend that dares defend the House of Waffle.
I'm gonna write down that drywall thing as an everyday risk that you've taken. Just saying.
No, I'm not saying I want to do it. I'd say I'd gladly accept a big shiny plate of drywall over a big shiny plate of whatever pig trough slop
Wow.
that a Waffle House would be willing to offer.
I would
me.
like to separate myself from this once again. Say I'm neutral party.
Oh, man.
But I'm all here for the fireworks, the vitriol. If we can get that going on a friendly forum, I will happily mediate and try and keep a lid on a few of the more personal insults.
That's fair. I think that's it. That's all we got, right?
If nothing else, I think that has evolved us.
That's true. We purposefully didn't talk about the outro because we argued over it last time. Here is what I intended.
Wonderful.
Here is what I intended. Just go with me. Just for 2 seconds. The music's probably already playing. I'm Holly Davenport.
I'm John Kinte.
And have we evolved?
Maybe.
No, I don't think so. All right, bye. See you next week.
See you next week.